Welcome back. In this lecture, we will look at some of the design parameters that are to be decided when we are designing a fuel cell stack. The typical requirements of a fuel cell stack are the average net power that can be obtained from a fuel cell stack is an important parameter that needs to be assigned. So the stack is typically designed based on this crucial parameter, power in the units of watts. The nominal voltage, the maximum and minimum voltage that is obtained from a stack is also an important criteria. It is this voltage is not just from an individual cell. The voltage from an individual cell is more or less decided once the nature of the fuel is fixed. What we are referring to here is the voltage that can be obtained from a cell stack. The system efficiency is an important aspect that describes a fuel cell stack. This is usually based on the lower heating value. As you probably know, the lower and higher heating value are jargons from thermodynamics of, let's say, combustion, wherein H2O, that is one of the main product of combustion, whether H2O is in the vapor phase or liquid phase. If it is in the vapor phase, you refer to that heating value as lower heating value. When water condenses to a liquid phase, this condensation releases heat. That heating value is referred to as higher heating value. If H2O is in the liquid phase, then the heating value is referred to as higher heating value. Fuel source is an important design parameter that needs to be fixed. Typically, the most common fuel cell operate with hydrogen, but the way to get hydrogen is a non-trivial issue that has to be addressed, because the hydrogen is a very good fuel if you consider energy per unit mass. But volumetric energy density of hydrogen is very poor. Therefore, it is typically in the compressed form before it is supplied to the fuel cell. And the common source of hydrogen are industrial natural gas, or you can also get it from methanol. The oxidant source is typically air, because getting pure oxygen is expensive. So typically air is supplied as an oxidant. It is typically the units for this design parameter is kg per meter cube. Many of the fuel cells generate heat, so there should be sufficient heat sink to reject the heat generated by fuel cell. An aspect we are not going to address in this lecture is to do with lifetime. There are a variety of features to do, factors to do with material degradation that determine the lifetime of a fuel cell. So what we assume we have before we design the fuel cell stack is the following. The polarization curve is dependent on the nature of fuel and the nature of fuel cell. For example, this is something which we have presented in a previous lecture. Depending upon the nature of fuel cell, whether we are having an alkaline fuel cell or a PEM fuel cell or a solid oxide fuel cell, the polarization curve will differ. But all these fuel cells operate with hydrogen as a fuel. So there is some similarity in terms of open circuit voltage and so on, but the nature of polarization curve might differ. So we assume that we have this polarization curve available to us. Given that, what are the options that we need to decide upon? We need to decide upon at what current the fuel cell will be operating, because this crucially determines the potential that can be obtained from a fuel cell. As you know, if you operate at high current, the O potentials are quite significant. Therefore, your output potential will be lesser. As opposed to that, if you operate at lower current density, your O potentials are lesser, and you may get higher voltage, but you need to have large cells, because to get sufficient current, large electrode surface is required. So much of engineering is about a trade-off, whether are you better off having lower current or higher current density is some decision you ought to be making depending upon variety of factors. How many cells are arranged in stack would determine the voltage which you can get from a fuel cell. This is an important design parameter that you need to be taking a decision on. How should the fuel and oxidant be flown into the fuel cell? This is something which we will take it up in the next lecture. So what we present here are 8 common design variables. Amongst the 8 variables, many of the design variables are interrelated. For example, the voltage of a cell is critically dependent on the current density at which you're operating the fuel cell. So this and this are in a way connected. The thermal voltage efficiency is connected to, we've elaborated this formula. It is connected to some of the features. So this in turn is connected to the current density. The power that can be obtained from a fuel cell is connected to both current density as well as the voltage of a fuel cell. So these two are connected in addition to the total area available in the fuel cell. Total area available is dependent upon the cross-sectional area of an individual cell times the number of cells that are in the stack. So these some of these 3 are interrelated. So the voltage of fuel cell stack is connected to number of cells and the voltage of individual cell. Therefore, this is connected to this and this. The eta Vt is related to this formula. We've elaborated this in our previous lecture. And the power of a stack is also can be obtained from this formula. We have elaborated the meaning of these 2 terms in the previous lecture. So the main take-home message is, even though there are 8 design variables, many of these things are interrelated to one another. So the main factors on which we will focus are the nominal voltage of a cell stack, the thermal voltage efficiency of a fuel cell stack, and the power that can be obtained from a fuel cell stack. These are the 3 main factors we'll be focusing on. In the next lecture, we will look at certain fuel cell stack configuration. Thank you.